Here to share his perspective on closing the achievement gap in Minnesota, we have the chair of the E12 Finance Committee, Senator Charles Wiger. Thanks for joining us, Senator.
Thank you, Julie.
You recently held a hearing on this issue discussing the wide gap in student achievement, particularly in St. Paul and Minneapolis, those school districts. What did you hear that really resonates with you?
What I heard was we're making progress. I heard there's hope. We're going to close that achievement gap, and we're making very good progress. To be sure, a lot needs to be done, but through the leadership of the Commissioner of Education, Commissioner Cassellius, and the governor, various business groups, foundations, local school boards, superintendents, teachers, there is a laser focus, particularly in St. Paul and Minneapolis schools, to close that achievement gap. And they provided numbers, charts showing the closing of the gap, particularly, for example, African-American males, and showing much higher math scores. In fact, near the highest in the country now for fourth grade African-American males. And we had a number of success stories that show progress is being made. Is it enough? No, we need to close that gap. But what I heard today was progress, hope, we're on the right track.
So you also stated that there still needs to be, a lot still needs to be done.
Yes.
What are some of the key things, the key issues that you think need tightening?
Key issue, Ready for K. And last session I sponsored the law that will provide $40 million additionally for students at risk for scholarships. We want students ready for K. If you're ready for K, it's very likely you're not going to need remediation because you're ready, and then you're going to be on a track for success that leads to graduation, that leads to college and career readiness. If you're not ready for K, the consequences are much more serious. So we're looking at high-risk students, particularly those in poverty, that need that assistance. The business community has been very actively behind this, and they're saying to help close the achievement gap, invest early in high quality programs. So we talked about that today at the hearing, and we're going to be discussing that much more. In fact, we're scheduling a hearing for February 26th to look at potentially the expansion of mini mines for high quality programs. So early learning, ready for K. That's number one.
And another issue that seems to come up over and over again is studies that indicate students perform better when they're not hungry. And of course, this recently came into the headlines. The governor says he wants to add more than $3.5 million to his budget to fund the free and reduced school lunch program. Is this, in your opinion, a good start, or do you think he's missing the mark? Is this an underfunded program, or is there more need for reform within districts to make sure that students don't go hungry?
I applaud the governor for his leadership to say it would be provided in a supplemental budget. Many districts will not turn down a student because they can't afford it. We're talking now about in the proposal, students on reduced price lunch, and it's 40 cents. And for no fault of their own sometimes, the account has not been paid, and if they're hungry, it's going to have a consequence on their ability to learn. Many districts will feed a student, but many won't, and it's been documented in some studies, and it's appalling to hear that. So there will be that proposal, and does that close the achievement gap in and of itself? It helps do that. Students should be fed, ready to learn, and there actually has been some studies showing that it will help. What I'll point out, though, is we want to make sure it's a nutritious meal as well.
Right, and thank you for that clarification, Senator. Let's go on to the next question because we're almost out of time. Many studies show that class size doesn't necessarily impact achievement gap. However, some of those studies show that a regular sized classroom is 22. In the Twin Cities area, sometimes those are closer to 35 to 40. Do you think class size, based on what you heard today, does class size impact student achievement gap? And is it something you think that the legislature should step in and take control over or guide districts?
The more student contact with the teacher, the better the learning experience as a general rule. But I don't think we need to intervene in school district negotiations right now. We've provided quite a bit of additional money for districts, a record amount in fact, and it depends sometimes on what the subject is that's being taught. With the great amount of technology that's available now and other tools, it's not as simple as teacher and students. Generally, it's better to have a smaller class size to get more individualized attention, but there's a lot of technology that's used now to assist, so I wouldn't put every learning opportunity into one exact formula.
My last question for you, do you anticipate more funding this session for K-12, E-12?
Yes, I do.
How much more, approximately?
We shall see. There'll be the February forecast, and I'm very pleased we're structurally balanced, that the IOU has been paid back to the schools. That was priority one. I would expect there would be some additional opportunity for investment. We'll make sure we're okay on the reserve, and we'll certainly want to look at additional investment in early education.
And we'll certainly follow your committee throughout session. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie.